Spirit. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authenticity. I'm Anna Toothman, and my guest today, the one and only White Wolf Jowers. And I asked him to please say his other beautiful name for me because I knew I would mess it up.
Purnananda. Purnananda.
Purnananda.
Purnananda. Yeah.
Beautiful. White Wolf. I had the pleasure of meeting you in person at one of your events, your services as a Kambo practitioner and ayahuasca administer.
So Teddy, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was here in Horseshoe Bend, and my friend Laura was hosting it, and I met some of the beautiful people that were there, and it had an amazing presence to it.
Thank you.
And so do you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We had a chance to chat a little bit, and I invited you to be on my show. So thank you. I'm honored, Wolf. Welcome.
It's honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. One of the reasons I thought our show would be great as we move to the second half of 2024 and into 2025, I wanted to bring some awareness about some of the misconceptions or judgments around plant medicine. As I have never, my soul journey has not been called on this path of experiencing ayahuasca or Kambo. My soul has desired other avenues or other modalities, but I do have friends, and I am well aware of communities and good friends and brothers and sisters who went that route.
Yeah.
I've had guests on the show who say that ayahuasca is experiencing the consciousness of the plant versus your own experience. There's some people who have stated to me that they spoke to a shaman and said that you're taking a risk by taking ayahuasca and that some people may not return. And so I thought, with all this information in the age of the internet, right? And at the fingertips, we have the smartphone at our hands, you know, you can look up, Google, do your research. But I thought, why not have someone explain his journey? When we spoke, Wolf, you talked about what was happening in your life in 2011 and 2012. And many of us on the front, our lives changed and listened and heard the clarion call to do the inner work. And your soul chose the journey of plant medicine. Now let's get into it, if we may, Wolf.
Yeah.
In 2012, can you tell those who don't know you a little bit of what changed for you in these last 10 years that brought to you where you are now?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Can I rewind it a little bit further back, just so
Sure, sure.
The experience. Well, I stand before you now as a 47-year-old man. And so just to give you reference of age, so when I give you some timelines, you'll recognize where I'm coming from. But when I was about 19, 20, I literally woke up one day and just felt this urge to go to church. And I was never really raised in a church. I was raised non-denominational, like went to church on like the holidays and Christmas and Easter and those kind of things. But I woke up one day and just felt called to get up and go to church. And I was living in Arizona. I grew up in Arizona, North Scottsdale, and got up and drove to this church in this strip mall, and went through the service and had the tears, of course, come in. I felt the Christ frequency come in my body. I was singing the songs, and it was just really a beautiful experience. And when I left, I just felt called to get involved. Like I just felt, I was like, I'm going to go back and get involved with the youth group or do something. I just felt this deep, like soul calling. And when I pulled into my driveway, this voice came to me and said, no, you're going to be doing that work your entire life, but that's not right now. You need to go out and experience life. You need to go experience life, like whatever that means to you, but you need to go out in life and experience it because you're going to be doing that work your entire life. It's like, don't go back there. And I was like, interesting. So from that moment, I begin to, and I was, at this time I was in the college years ages, living in Tempe and being around ASU and going to the pubs and the dance clubs and out and those kind of things and got involved with the party scene and had my first substance experience with ecstasy. I never got involved in those kind of things prior to those years of my life and never stimulated myself on that level. And so ecstasy really had some profound experiences with that medicine or what you might call a substance at that time. And this is like late 90s. And went through my process of that, got into a little bit of trouble with it legally on that level, and came out of it. And I sat with myself, and what really felt called was like I really felt called to get involved with sports medicine. That was like what came out of that. And so I got involved with sports medicine career in Arizona for 14 years. And I began to so I had incredible opportunities. I worked with the Phoenix Suns and athletes and the common folk as well. It was a really beautiful experience. And in 2008, I ended up getting recruited to Los Angeles, came out to LA, happened to be the same year the recession hit, went to work for a beautiful space in Beverly Hills, had to transform the gym into much more like a medical-based training center based on changing the business model because of the recession and dealing with PPO insurance and sports medicine modalities and all these kind of fun things. And I managed this place for 5 years. Then I began to hear a message. And that's when we talked about like the 2012 began to come through. And the message was, you're supposed to heal from the natural remedies from the earth. That was the message verbatim. And I put that into a message, that box of natural medicine or naturopathic medicine. And I walked life my career with a full heart of trust and inner guidance, and went to school. Was in school about a year and a half, studying natural medicine. And at the same time, I began to work with a Buddhist monk priest for meditation, Yog Swami for like what yoga is really about. And then I apprenticed to shamans, work medicine of ayahuasca. And so in that year and a half, my life took a really big turn. And that was almost 12 years ago. And so this vast decade of life is about going deep in these different ancient traditions we've had on this planet for thousands of years. And whether I was living in a Buddhist monastery with monks or going to live in an ashram or going to visit different native tribes, I began to recognize these traditions looked very different, but the intentions were always the same. It was, how do I connect a divine space of my being, a space of wholeness, a space of purpose, a space of gifts, a space of that space of soul, if you want to call it that divine space within all of us. And it was a medicine path that really called to me. And so when it comes to the medicine of ayahuasca, I've been a student of medicine for almost 12 years. And about 6 years ago, I was sitting in a meditation. And in ayahuasca, there's a very divine feminine essence. You call it a spirit, call it whatever you want to call it, that guides you in your path. And I had a relationship with this energy, and it came to me in a meditation without drinking the medicine. And instead, it's time for you to serve. At that moment, I had this epiphany. I was being groomed to serve this medicine without knowing it. I didn't know I was trying to be that guy. I didn't have a desire for that. But she showed me all the different teachers I'd worked with, the experience I'd had. I was actually being groomed to serve this medicine without knowing it. And so the essence of ayahuasca has been one of my greatest teachers of life. And it isn't about necessarily a different dimensional space or other energy. It's more about, she holds a bridge. The active ingredient in ayahuasca is DMT, which is considered the spiritual molecule or God molecule. And based how you hold your own being and how you hold your own essence of who you are and realize how powerful and whole and complete you really are, then grandmother, aka ayahuasca, allows you to hold a bridge and allows that bridge, that rainbow bridge, to your higher consciousness or your higher self. And so you get to go and access that space within your being. Now, if other people maybe can't, if the facilitator isn't holding that essence of the container of the ceremony, or you don't hold yourself in a reference of understanding how whole and complete you are, or feel like you are broken or something needs to be fixed, then she's not going to really work with you on that level. But know that the essence of the full impact of grandmother, or the essence of ayahuasca, you can actually bridge into your higher level of consciousness and begin to navigate your essence of who you are and begin to understand more aspects of your being and other higher dimensions of yourself, this sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth dimensional self of who you are, and begin to understand more about your power, your essence, your lineage, and all you're choosing to bring here on this planet. And so this is what I teach with the medicine. This is what I feel grandmother has got me to experience with my own understanding and journey of my own being. And then that's the kind of intention-based ceremonies or circles or containers that we hold in serving the medicine. Other facilitators hold different containers based on their lineage, based on the way they were taught, based on their relationship with the medicine. So everyone has their own unique way of offering the medicine. This is what I feel called in my heart of how to offer it, is really holding a rainbow bridge of divine space, people connect to their wholeness and their avenue. So anyways, that was 6 years ago. Been working the medicine full time now for 6 years as far as serving it as well. Kambo. So in the reference of Kambo, if people don't know what Kambo is, it's a frog secretion that comes from the Amazon. And well, let's do my journey first. So 7 years ago, my mom passed away, and it was a beautiful experience. We talk all the time. It feels really incredible to have her there every moment compared to having to pick up the phone and dial it. And so being able to communicate with her all the time. So 2 months later, I had my first opportunity to sit with Kambo after my mom passed away. And 2 nights later, she came in a dream, and she looked at me and she looked down. She looked at me and she looked down. She looked at me and she looked down. When I looked down, there's a frog at my feet. So I knew in that moment I began to need to investigate this medicine, understand what it's about, and what really, what's the essence of it and how it works with our essence of who we are. And so I went on a 9-month journey of sitting with different practitioners, understanding the medicine, and I felt called to become a practitioner with this medicine. And it's been 7 years now. I now sit before you as a master practitioner with Kambo. I'm sponsored by Kambo International. I do trainings for Kambo International, do teachings and offerings, podcast interviews, TV show interviews, radio shows, interviews, whatever it is about Kambo. To really feel called in my heart to really share this medicine out in the public, to understand what this medicine is about. Kambo comes from a frog, and it's a frog species from the green monkey tree frog. And the frog is not harmed to gather it. We deal with the Matsi tribe, and other tribes have a very sustainable way of collecting medicine without harming the frog. And it's very important that if you work with Kambo, to work with somebody who understands how the medicine is collected and where they get it from. That's first and foremost. And so Kambo is made of 11 bioactive peptides. 3 of them are neurological. And so how Kambo came in the mix of life, it actually came through ayahuasca. There was a Page named, Page is Brazilian for Portuguese for medicine person. And his name was Page Campo, and this is thousands of years ago. And his tribe got deathly sick to the point of extinction. And he tried all his medicines, all his modalities to save the tribe, nothing was working. And so he turned a journey with ayahuasca. In their context of understanding, he was journeying to go to God, to ask God, how do I save my tribe? And while he was in ayahuasca, he was guided to walk out the rainforest to this green monkey tree frog. And he was shown how to take the medicine out of the frog without harming it, and was given a vision of how to burn the skin of his tribe members and put it on the burn. So he ended up doing that, and he ended up saving the entire tribe. So it said, when he took his last breath as a human, his spirit went to the frog. And that's why the medicine is called Kambo, because his name was Kampu. So it's actually named after him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so, but no, Kambo, ayahuasca, these medicines have been around for thousands of years. And they're only kind of new to our society because these medicines, the consciousness of these medicines wanted to come out of the Amazon. It's not because some man or woman brought it out. They wanted to come out to help us go through this transition on the planet, this dimensional shift that we're going through right now in this very moment, as we calibrate our systems and come into this higher consciousness of who we are, receive this higher frequency of Christ consciousness, recalibrate our systems energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically. And that's what I've noticed over the past couple of years. That's what medicines are moving into. They're moving into that spot of recalibration. 12 years ago, ayahuasca used to work on your heart trauma. If you were abused by your siblings or unfortunately abused by a parent or by a neighbor or something, or traumatic experience with a lover, like she worked on that. She's not really focusing on that anymore. I mean, she is, but it's more like she's coming in and just recalibrating your system so you can next handle this. You can handle the next download or understanding or frequency that's coming on the planet, and have an understanding around it, being able to calibrate it. Because if you're not calibrated, it's like plugging in a 18-volt light bulb into a 30 watt plug. It's just not going to mix, And I've noticed especially the past year and a half, these medicines have calibrated, and they're coming in differently, and they're working with people differently and helping their systems, just like I said, recalibrate. People are watching their systems internally being completely restructured as if you're rewiring a whole computer,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really beautiful in how they're showing up on the planet right now. And no, these medicines are a fast track, and you can use other practices sacred practices, whatever you do to honor yourself to help your system go through this calibration. If you, as well as a medicine path can help you fast track it. So one's not better than the other. They're just different avenues to the same place.
Right.
People feel called, and if their soul is calling for them to come do this work, beautiful. If it's not, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really like them trusting that own inner guidance, and the biggest thing I teach now is understanding that heart intelligence, and these medicines help that connection build stronger or quicker if you're not willing to go and do the long-term inner work. It's not that this is a lily pad or a frog leap by doing the medicine work, frog leap, but the point is it helps fast track this connection that sometimes maybe some of us need that fast track, and it's more importantly, it's what it's really doing is calibrating that intelligence of our heart and being able to tune into that and receive it in every moment, every breath, and allow us to come off the mental discipline or the dependency upon that mental body around guidance in our life, because we're shifting out of that. We're moving into a space where there's no teacher that's been here before. There's no book to read. The only thing we have is our intelligence of our heart to connect to this Christ consciousness, to give us that intuition or that intelligence to guide us in every moment of our life. And that's what it's really all I come back to. So whether you're doing breath work or meditation or yoga or medicine work, it's all leading you into a space of listening to your intelligence of your heart.
These are all resonating in, the recalibration of our heart, rewiring our brain. It's everything that we have been working on and are working on as we move forward as a collective. And different people using different modalities for sure, Wolf. My question is, there is a sense of some new aginess to some of that people call new age, or you're very educated and it's coming from your heart and you're authentic and this is your passion. And it comes with great responsibility when we have this sort of knowing, and that our intentions when we are a practitioner, that when we're serving our clients, that it's coming from our heart, and we understand the responsibility we have to the collective and the honor to Source God, to the Mother, Father, ourselves, and our communities. And so when someone contacts Wolf, are they interviewed?
Yeah. First thing we do is most of everything I do is referral based. I'm thankful to be able to have an impact on people's lives to where they feel called to, whether for their friends and family. And I would say 90% of what I offer is through referral based. So I usually get introduced, and then first thing I do is I get their email and send them out some information to review about the medicines and about the process. And then we schedule a connect call. That connect call is going to review everything that I send out as well as emails. Do more of, I guess, a casual interview in the realm of letting them know where I'm coming from, my bio in some sense. Let it, find out what their intentions are, what they're looking to do and work with. If you come into Kambo for just you come in for a biological and neurological reset, beautiful. Kambo is also called conscious Kambo for a reason. If you want to work on your consciousness, behavioral patterns, the way you show up in the world, how you handle relationships, how you respond to life. Like that's also an avenue with Kambo if you want to go to that depth. And the container that I hold is set to go to the depth of your consciousness if you want to. You don't have to, but just know if you come in for just a biological cleanse, neurological reset, beautiful. But if you want to go to the depth of your consciousness, that's also available. So I want to make sure to explain that in the calls for people that are coming in, say for Kambo. And I always lead with Kambo because if you want to do any further work after Kambo, you need to sit with Kambo first. All your medicines I work with or sit with, Kambo is the initiative. It's mandated. It's a boundary that I hold. You need to do Kambo first. And no matter if you were to go, sit with the grandmother or ayahuasca in the jungle, or go to Africa and sit with a boga or these master medicines, either way you're doing a detox process or doing a cleansing process. Either way, their context, you're going to go sit with God. And so how are you going to walk into that space? You want to walk into a very pure space. You want to present a very pure space as you walk into that space. And so, with Kambo, from a medical standpoint, we've seen overcome AIDS, HIV, STDs, autoimmune diseases, stage 4 cancer, Lyme disease, Alzheimer's, and dementia so far. I'm talking from a master practitioner as far as what I've seen, what I've witnessed, what I've heard testimony wise, with the medicine. I'm not making any claims. I'm just letting you know what I've seen as a master practitioner.
Right, because we will get shut down by Facebook because we are not doctors.
Yeah, no.
And so we can't make these claims. Indeed.
Yeah. So it's what I've seen, but if you understand how Kambo works, as I mentioned, it's 11 bioactive peptides, 3 are neurological. And so how that works is Campbell's molecule structure matches your saliva. And so when it comes in the body, but welcomes it very quickly, like something that's already part of the system, doesn't see it as a foreign substance. And so it welcomes it very quickly. Because it has the ability to mirror your molecular level of your peptides in your body, your cells are very open to it. So it has the ability to go to the center of your cells and it pulls all the bad bacteria, all the PTSD, all the trauma, all the trapped emotions. Whatever the cells are holding, it pulls it out, puts good bacteria back in the cell, and then it reseals the cell. But it goes to the entire body in 40 minutes. So it's a rapid detox. And it's not that comfortable. You have to know there's about 20 minutes in the 40 minutes of Kambo that's uncomfortable. And I'm very transparent around that. The rapid rate of what's happening between your neural system is being recalibrated, your biological system of your cells are being cleansed out at a very rapid rate. All of it's happening in a very short amount of time. And I use the analogy, growing up for myself, we had these movies called Superman or Superwoman, and we had this thing called phone booths, and they would go into a phone booth and they would transform into their uniform and then come back out 3 seconds later. And that's the comparison to Kambo, like the amount of things that are happening in a very short amount of time. So you're going to be kind of uncomfortable in that process. But it's beautiful in the way that it works. And I can tell you, honestly, I've never had one person regret doing it. Not everybody's liked it. I've had many people tell me they're not going to come back and do it again, and they call me 2 days later and they want to know when they can come back because they.
That is a good place for us to pause for a second. So I may ask you a question. There's so many important things that you said there. I'm pausing to have the proper words. When we have such fast tracking happening within our system, and we have this cleanse, it's up to us when we're done with these modalities to do the inner work. How often do you tell your clients you said there's return clients or they're ready to come back? My point here is there's the part of us that takes over the journey. The inner journey is one that is done from within you. The body is an intelligent, incredible machine. Our suit is capable of healing itself. We were speaking before the show. We talked about that you're fasting on a dry fast, that you're not doing any water or food at the moment. And you're really learning about other ways, the incredible ways our body can live and be on its own through breath.
Right.
And I use photosynthesis as an example for myself. I was speaking to a friend and I said, I wonder, like many things, a woman will go or a man will go get a tummy tuck or lose weight, but it doesn't change this and this.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is, where I'm going with this, Wolf, is this isn't a spiritual bypassing of our inner work.
Right.
And that when you leave an experience at one of your retreats or events or experiences, people go home. This is a way of being, right? To me, this is an embodiment of our higher self and form, a consciousness up leveling. It isn't, I'm going to do ayahuasca after you know, whatever, I'm going to go do this for a couple months and then come back and go cleanse. We're not talking about that in this moment.
No. First of all, the before we even start the medicine work, we do breath work, we do prayers, we do intention setting. And I talk about how to work on your consciousness and the intentions. And so Kambo meets you where you are today, like where you are tomorrow is somewhere different. And so based on people's intentions, that's what they receive from Kambo. I served a retreat in Utah in the beginning of the year, and there was an analyst from NASA, retired analyst from NASA there, and he didn't understand how he could set an intention, and the medicine would give him that. So he came for 3 days with Kambo, and the first day he made one intention. Kambo served him that. Came back 2 days later, did the second session. He made 4 intentions. Kambo served him that. Came back the third day, made 12 intentions. Kambo served him that. And so the intentions are very important around what you intend to call in to the medicine work, whether you want to table up a conscious pattern that you want to look at, whether you want to look at, something you're holding on to from a traumatic experience in the past, or whatever you want to do, but you need to set that intention up before you ever receive the medicine. And the medicine's going to meet you there. So it's not going to be able to take you anywhere further where you're not ready to go or where you're not ready to grow from, because you need to acknowledge that first before you sit with the medicine. And then post that, half the work is showing up and receiving the medicine, whether it be Kambo or ayahuasca. The other half is how you integrate that experience. So when it comes to ayahuasca, there's 4 weeks of integration support I offer after that, whether it be individual phone calls, emails, texts, we communicate. We also do group calls with people, in the ceremony. In fact, the retreat I met you at today, or I met you at a month ago, we're having a group call tonight. So it's that integration work is so vitally important. And as I mentioned, half the work is showing up and receiving the medicine. The other half is how to integrate that experience. And it becomes very real time with Kambo, because if you're sitting there and there's something coming up for you and you're very uncomfortable, I'm guiding you to go into that space. Don't get distracted by it, or don't get, don't hum and haw about uncomfortability. Like, go into it. What is the medicine trying to show you? In my mini experience with Kambo, it showed me a pattern I developed in 6th grade around fear of abandonment, due to my mom's depression. And so I got to work through that as I stepped into working with Kambo in the beginnings, and really understood how to go in and work with this pattern that had, the medicine showed me how this pattern helped me in the moment of 6th grade in mom's depression, but I've been running it for 30 years post that moment. So it had me go into the discomfort of what actually it felt that I thought it was a pattern helping me for 30 years, was actually something that was limiting my expression of trueness of my divinity. So I got to go in and work with that, and it wouldn't release until I fully went in to get the gift of it. When we understand that everything in our life is happening for us, never to us, never against us, then we can actually lean into those uncomfortability spaces to receive the gift of what this is about, whether it be a traumatic moment or a blissful experience. And this is where we allow the medicine to work with us. And it's not all about the medicine work. It's the fact that medicine right now is helping us take this next big step of consciousness on the planet. It's not always going to be about Kambo. It's not always going to be ayahuasca. It's going to be, these are just helping us right now. You know what I mean?
Well, and also everything is up leveling on this planet. Gaia herself, the planet herself, has rised in consciousness. She's becoming a sun illuminated version of herself, and so is everything that lives on this planet. So that planet, being that it's from this planet, is raising its consciousness as well. So it makes sense that it is adapting to where we're at. And I have never been called to ayahuasca or Kambo, and I've been able to reach the depths of my inner child, and I've been able to raise my consciousness to a level of where I'm working on my mastery now. And the reason why I'm saying that is that I'm also wanting everyone who's listening to know that there's other modalities that, if you don't choose plant medicine, that this body is built to be able to do it on its own, if that is your choice. Wolf is offering a modality. If it calls to you, a lot of my friends have said, it called to me. All of a sudden it's in my life, then I know that it's there for a reason. It is important that everyone on this planet realizes that they're a child of God and that no one is better or less than in what your choices are, and how we're all aiming for the same end result, and how we get there and what train you got on is up to your soul's journey. And so this is a judgment-free zone. Just because I have not chose it does not mean I have judgment around it. I wanted the world to hear what you offer, because there is many people stepping into that choice. And if that is their choice, I want them to do their research about their practitioner, where they're getting their Kambo, where is that ayahuasca coming from, and anything that we put in our body and make that choice for ourselves, we meet with a conscious choice.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's where I'm coming from. It is important that as we move forward as a collective, that our mirrors, our judgment for others, is something we haven't healed about ourselves. And so I applaud you for assisting in your, as a practitioner, and doing your part in this conscious evolution of humanity and Gaia, my friends, and all who are listening who have been your client. It's an amazing journey for all of us.
Thank you.
How is the breathen, not eating, having a dry fasting going for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So just to share with anybody, it was the beginning of the year, and in some of the journeys I was facilitating, I kept getting guided to begin to study breatharianism. And breatharianism is people who walk this earth and don't eat or drink. And the medicine was very clear, or the higher guidance was very clear in my journey around, this is not something you're doing now. This is something you're going to be doing like the last quarter of your life, but you need to begin to prep your system now. And very much clear to Anna's point, basically, there's a theory out there that when the entire earth was covered in water, that a lot of the plant life had eaten up all the nutrients in the ocean. And this is, they say, millions or billions of years ago. And at some point in time, the plant life to figure it out that we're going to go ahead and begin to eat the sun instead of eating nutrients out of the ocean. And because the ocean was eating itself. And so that's why the plants now are photosynthesis. And so there's a theory around that's where our consciousness is going as well, in that aspect. And it's not for everybody, but who knows? At the same time, it's learning teaching your system to shift from external fuel to internal fuel, and how do you live off the light from within. Some people do it from sun gazing. They do external sun. Some people do it from the light within. And what most people don't talk about in breatharianism is these deep spiritual practices that go along with the practice. It's not just about, I'm not going to eat or drink the rest of the day and I'm just going to walk my life. There are many things that have to shift for you to deeply come into that space of complete energetic
alignment
and fullness, and just feeling full without having a desire for out there. And a couple months ago, after this past 4 months of really diving deep into my practices with it shifted, where I woke up one Saturday and this message was like, we've now shifted. If you want to eat it because you want to. If you want to drink some water, do it because you want to, but you're not in a place anymore where you need to do it because you want to. It's really beautiful. And it's, I mean, I ate Saturday. It's not like I'm not eating or drinking, but today specifically, I'm doing a dry fast where I'm not eating or drinking for 20 or 36 hours. Just training my system for that. And also 4 levels. Level 4 is the people, the monks, the sannyasins that live in the mountains of Himalayas that don't eat or drink and meditate all day long in a cave. That's them. There's also level 3 of breatharianism, where people who are householders who eat once a week, or they drink some water or juice throughout the week. It's not extreme. Our mind always goes to this extreme space of it. Level 2 is somebody who does intermittent fasting. Level 1 is somebody who thinks about fasting. So that's vegetarianism. that's out there that I begin to understand. And so, yeah, it just feels really, it really feels empowered, when you come into that space of um, nothing within your being is calling for something external to feel more whole or complete. And I've noticed that has transformed that transferred into other avenues, aspects of my life as well. You know, and so just
I
really,
do.
really,
I
really
really do know, because when you're full in here, you need nothing outside yourself.
good. And
When you're in love with life and yourself, everything you need, once you're a clean conduit, you receive all that you need.
yeah,
But you said something, Wolf, that I hope everybody is listening, is that the key here is that there comes with key practices. This
yeah,
isn't just saying, oh, I'm going to not eat today.
right,
This is a someone who is mastering what their body, their mind, their heart, their energy fields. This is their way of being.
right.
This is a conscious movement
Mhm.
into being conscious beings and working together with the earth and each other, and seeing ourselves as one, and
Yeah,
not just speaking it, but embodying it
yeah.
is profound to me. I was laying on the ground or on the earth by the river for 7/7 yesterday. It was called. The energies was coming through so strongly, and I was a bit uncomfortable in the body, and I needed to be by the water and lay on the ground as an anchor and a conduit. And I felt such peace. I could feel her. It felt like a mother's warm hug.
Mm,
Just I don't know how to describe it, but it was like I was getting a massage.
mm,
I was laying there and just allowing it to just, every part of my being was enamored with the sounds and the feeling of this love I have for life.
wow. How long were you there for?
I just spent I think I went up around noon, 1 o'clock, and I was there for like 2 or 3 hours,
Wow.
just being in the water and the river, up past banks, a crouch area,
Mhm.
pulled over the car, came down the river, and was able to found some sandy beach, no one around, watched some people on their kayak, and because there's some white water up there,
Yeah.
people like to float the river. That's for more experienced kayakers than myself, but I was able to get in the water. um, we get called, and I followed those nudges wherever
Yeah.
I'm called to go here in Boise, and we're lucky. We just have a little bit of a drive, and we're in the mountains.
Wow.
I wanted to ask you, how often do your clients uh, come see you? Repeated?
Yeah. So Campbell's highly recommended to do 3 times in a moon cycle. Um, a lot of practitioners grab down that as like a marketing ploy. So like if you don't do 3 times in a month, then you lose all these benefits. I don't prescribe to that. Doesn't work that way. But what I would, highly suggest anyone is to commit to yourself and you do it 3 times. Whether it be 3 times in a week, 3 times in a month, 3 times in a year, like however it aligns in your life. It can be 3 different practitioners as well, but make an agreement with your own being that you're going to sit with it 3 times because it's different every single time. What I've noticed is after you sit with Kambo 3 times, medicine begins to call you when you want to come back. I serve weekly here in my home for my community here in Ashland. People know that I serve, so they'll call me and say, "Hey, I'm feeling called to come to Kambo this week." Great, what is the day or whatever it is? And but I usually, if people come and sit, I usually stay in communication with them for the first 3 times. And it's not like we're not friends, but after that, I really stopped communicating with them. A realm of they'll know when to come back. They'll feel the call. It will come to them. It could be 6 months later, 9 months later, and 6 days later. Medicine will call to them. But when it comes to Cambo, it's really about getting people in for their first 3 times and then letting it take its own relationship with you after that. Um, Ayahuasca, she is really beautiful in the way that she works. Sometimes people will come sit with me and then they'll feel called immediately afterwards to sit again. and they'll return back, whether it be next time I'm going to LA or if I'm going to a retreat. Sometimes they'll sit and the medicine will say, no, I want you to take a year off. You need to process and integrate this. And so I really trust, like as I mentioned, one of the biggest foundational pieces of the circles that I offer is teaching people how to guide into their heart space, how to activate that intelligence, and more importantly, how to turn the volume up of listening to it. And teaching them that, when I grew up with these radios and you had to move the dial to find that frequency, it wasn't digital, had to click in, and teach people how to move the dial to find that frequency of how they can interpret that guidance from their heart. Everyone's unique. Some people are audible, some people are visual, some people are somatic. Everyone has their own unique connection to that internal space of communication. And so I really help teach that because I want that space to guide you when you feel called to come back. If somebody calls me and say they're feeling called to come medicine, they don't know what to do, then I guide them into that space. Go sit with yourself and discover I'm not here to convince you to come do it or not do it. It's more about you being able to trust that inner guidance. And so people come when they feel called to come, and many people are returning because the medicine has called them to come back. It isn't like a marketing push to get them to come back to ceremony. It's more or less holding the space for them continuously from the moment we sit together for the first time to as long as that space needs to be held for, and allowing that relationship. Huh?
Is it healthy? Is there any research on effects of doing it multiple times?
Well, for Kambo specifically, yes, it is a treatment-based medicine. And so some of these medical elements, one thing we do after you sit with Kambo the first time, first time we serve it, it's served the traditional way of the tribes. The tribes believe that men have to learn how to live in the heart. It's with medicine in the left arm for the first time. Tribes also believe that women, that you already live in your heart. It's with medicine as far from the heart as possible on your right ankle. Once someone comes and receives Kambo the first time of that tribal way, if they choose to come back at some point in time, we then bring them the modality of acupuncture with Kambo. Not using needles, because the medicine as a needle on different radiant channels of the bodies, chakras along the spine, auriculogy of the ears, and we can really begin to target an intentional based treatment based on what you're wanting to work on. And so by combining this modality with acupuncture and then working on medical ailments is how we've seen the transference and shifting of these different things in the body, on our planet, or in our society. So Kambo is definitely a treatment-based medicine. I mean, I work with it monthly myself for the past 7 years, just as a preventative. I've had naturopath look at my blood under a microscope and said my blood is off the charts as far as the level of healthiness and how it's operating and how it's moving and how it's working. And I really credit that to Kambo. The second part about ayahuasca is that, as ayahuasca is the bridge to your highest self, it connects you to your higher frequency of being. And so what I've noticed is that it brings forth the close of the chapter of life you've been living, and it calls forth the next chapter of your life that you're calling in. And it's like a big chapter change, and she calls in the next frequency. And so my integration work with people is supporting them and guiding them how to hold that new frequency in their system. And so that's going to recalibrate many things energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically, but just how they operate in the world. I just had an integration call with a gentleman last night who has had sleep apnea for the past years of his life through stress. Once he came out of the ayahuasca ceremony 2 weeks ago, he's been sleeping through the night every night, So these things just show up, and it's not always a physical benefit, but it could be mental, it could be energetic, could be emotional. And when we understand that we can, acknowledge and honor all parts of our being, we're not just physical beings. We have physical body, mental body, energetic body, and emotional body. And these medicines are conscious-based medicines, so they work on all layers of ourselves when you do this inner work, So
that's really important because you said inner work, and we spoke about you doing a dry fast because we realized that the body does not need anything outside itself. And so like Kambo is using something outside yourself. You can get, the ultimate goal is to have just this vehicle.
Yeah, but Kambo won't fully work if you don't consciously meet it. That's the beautiful thing, is these aren't like pharmaceuticals where you can just take something and it does the thing. Like, you have to meet these medicines and do the work with them. You can't just take Kambo and think it's going to bypass like doing the inner work. Like Kambo kind of squeezes you into having to do the inner work. Because if you don't go in and find out what the comfortability is in your stomach, it's just going to sit there.
Yeah, that's really important that everybody hears that loud and clear, is you must do the inner work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I can't state that enough. If you're just going to go so that it's doing, you believe that it's going to do the work for you, you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to spend a lot of money for a brief experience, and then go home to yourself.
Yep. Because your grandmother won't do the work for you anymore. She used to. 10 years ago, she used to. She used to like nudge you and get you to do the work. She won't anymore. She'll just sit there. Everyone else around you will be having experience who's doing the inner work. And if you're not choosing to do it or thinking the medicine's gonna do it all for you, you're just gonna sit there and watch everybody else. She just won't show up for you. I mean, it's become that black and white over the past year. Where like if you're coming in with just like, if you think there's something wrong with you and you're not willing to look at it and you just think the medicine is gonna do it all for you, you're just gonna sit there. So you have to be able to do the inner work. And in that point, the second part about that is if anyone's listening on this, this interview or here's a replay or whatever it is, like whatever you do to honor yourself or yourself with self-care practice, whatever it is, just know that it might need some advancements. You don't need to change it, but it might be calling to bring in some other modalities and try in some new things, whether you want to bring in some chanting, whether you want to bring in a coffee enema, whether you want to do like some fasting, whether you want to do like a walk in the park, some breath work, some yoga, maybe different yoga practice you've done before. Like the point is that this next frequency or consciousness is calling for us to add in our spiritual practice a little more, because it isn't a hobby anymore. It's as important as drinking water. If you're not doing your practice each day, you might as well just not eat or drink, which is fine. The point is that it used to be a hobby 20 years ago. Meditation came in as a hobby energy, and it did that so it could fully accept it. And now it's at a point where these practices are just as important as breathing, eating, and drinking water, and they need to be done daily. And maybe your system is calling for an advancement to bring in try some new things. I'm always offering new things to the classes and ceremonies I offer. Try this, try that, see if it resonates with you. Go outside the box a little bit. And just so for those who said, when I said coffee, I didn't say drink coffee. I said coffee enema. I just wanted to clarify those words. You always say coffee, and it's different.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun, Wolf. Tell us where, I know you said you don't do advertisement, and it's just, and I always give my guests an opportunity to let people know how they may find you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. So I live in Ashland, Oregon. I have a beautiful, beautiful home here. A lot of people come from all over. Haven't anybody come from Europe yet, but Canada and Toronto and New York, Washington, D.C. and Chicago and Oregon, all these places, people come here and travel to do private work if they want to, with 3 different medicines I offer, as well as I travel and offer retreats in all different places. So I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to. You can also email me at wolf, WOLF, at Kambo, KAMBOIS.life. LIF is in Frank E. So it's wolf at kambois.life. If you have questions, I love doing connect calls. Just because you have a call doesn't mean you have to be committed to anything. Just getting you more information around understanding and let you come into your own awareness around if there's something called to you or anything I said on the podcast. If you have questions about, I have calls every day with people all day long. And so I love connecting calls. They're all complimentary. If anybody wants more information or to connect anyway, email is the best. Yeah, go from there.
Well, I am honored. I feel like, is there anything else we can talk about or bring to anybody? Have any questions for Wolf at the moment? Let me read over some here. It says, Ace says, I've heard so much about you, brother. Looking forward to connecting. Ace, I've had him on the show. He's a local author. He's amazing. So yeah, email him, Ace. Let's see if there's any questions. Hi, Sarah. Sarah said, this is beautiful. Skyla said, oh my gosh, I almost didn't recognize him with his short hair.
Yeah, I had long hair down to my behind for 10 years. So I just cut it.
It was very recent, right before.
Right for the first of the year,
yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions you want me to ask? Wolf, please post them under the comment sections. Everybody's being very shy.
Okay.
I got a fascinating. So far, no questions. I feel like we've had a really good podcast. Again, do your research, people,
Yeah.
especially on the practitioner. That anytime you make a decision of conscious mind to ingest something, let
For
alone eat it,
sure.
inquire about where it's from and what are your intentions.
That
Know
makes
that you're able to do this on your own, and what Wolf is offering is a modality to get you in the right direction of your heart's calling. I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. Sarah says, I've so enjoyed listening to this. Sarah, you met, she was up there. She went up with
yeah.
me and Ray. She's listening at the moment.
Like to,
Wolf,
can I mention one thing?
sure.
Uh, So at the beginning of the year, I felt the medicine calling for a new way of being offered, and I did some visioning meditations around not meaning calling in visions, but like calling in the next vision of offering and of life. And so what really came forth was designing a program called the Diamond Heart Project, and it's a 16-week program. I teach people how to go from being completely mentally dominated with their thoughts and their guidance of life to a heart-centered guidance on a logistical level, like being able to actually hear it and be guided from that process. And so I'm launching that towards the end of this year.
How
But
beautiful.
more importantly, the importance of all that for everyone listening is it's so important to listen to that space and begin to trust it. And it's a relationship. And so you can go to the grocery store and look at fruit and just see which one's calling to you and just begin to hear the inner guidance, because that's going to be the most important part of your walk of life, is that internal guidance of everything you step into experience. So if I leave you with anything on this planet, it's how to listen to your heart.
Mm, I love that so much. And if I think of something we can do a collaboration in the future or something fun that's heart centered or based, I will reach out to you, Wolf, and vice versa. If you'd like for me to collaborate with you on anything, let me know. I do practice light language. I speak it, and I do sacred geometry with my hands. And so together, all of us here in Boise and local communities, we're all working for that same
Wonderful.
things, right? To bring heaven on earth and embody this all together. More the merrier. This is my passion. This is my service.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Wolf. Big love to you and yours.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on Authenticity. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Makes sense.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.